What's up, fam? Extraordinary Life with Elijah. And before we jump into the video today, I want to remind you about the Gaboon's prophecy interpretation exercise. If you haven't watched that video, go ahead and click on the link, Children Will Prophesy. What I'm hoping to do is be able to get you, my fam, to record interpretation videos. Give me your insights into what God's saying to me in the prophecy that Kailani gave me about Gaboons. Post it in the comments on the video, Children Will Prophesy. I'd love to watch your videos and include you guys in the forward expression of extraordinary life with Elijah. That being said, this week, Sam is my extra and I am the ordinary. Sam, it's been so good getting to know you in our Friday morning hangout times. It's just been such a joy to hear about your passion for the word and to receive the grace that God has given you stewarded towards me, to awaken his voice in my life and to hear him in new ways. You've been such a blessing to me, and I'm so thankful to God for you. Friends, this last Friday, I got to hang out with my friends Sam and Shannon. We meet every Friday morning at 6:30 a.m. and we encourage one another, confess sins, hold one another accountable, study God's word, and pray, and have breakfast. It's just a beautiful time of getting fed in our physical body, our souls, and our spirits. And this last Friday, Sam had such an amazing ministry to my life. My wife and I are considering some huge decisions right now, and amongst those is our housing. We want to move forward in buying a house, but in the Bozeman market where I live right now, the properties are so expensive. So we're getting pre-qualified to find out what we qualify for, but a lot of what's going to unwrap in the next few months is whether or not we're going to be able to purchase a house and stay in Bozeman, or whether we're going to have to move away. As a result of that, there's all kinds of decisions then that are cropping up on my wife and I's plate that we need to make intentional decisions on, very firm plans, and we're on a timeline and how quickly we have to make those decisions. As a result of that, I'm not doing well. I tell people it took me 3.5 years to figure out that I wanted to marry my wife, Charlotte. My entire community knew that's a no-brainer, man. That's like a 2-day consideration. She's such an amazing woman, but it took me 3.5 years to make that decision. I just marinate on things slowly, and in this context, we don't have a lot of time. As a result of that, I'm really wrestling with giving into striving or being anxious or worried and making plans on my own aside from God, and it's just not wise. That's why I was so encouraged when I went and had breakfast with Sam and Shannon, and Sam started talking about how he was going to be leading a Bible study coming up here in the next few weeks out of James chapter 4, and began to talk about the end of the chapter where it says, "Listen, you who say we will go to this or that city, stay there a year, make money, do this and that, and we're just going to be awesome. You who say that, nope, you shouldn't say that. Rather, you ought to say, if it's the Lord's will, we will go and do this or that." And then it was interesting, his insight then that he had from the last verse of the chapter. It says that those who know the good that they ought to do and don't do it, to them it is sin. And his insight was so powerful that in the context of what he has on his heart to lead in this Bible study coming up, his insight on that last verse is that it's speaking to the fact that when we make plans and say, this is what we're going to do, this is exactly what we're going to do, we know what we're going to do, we're going to move forward, and over the next year, these are going to be our rubrics and processes of deciding whether or not we were successful, that in that context, that it's very easy to stop listening for the Lord's voice. That out of James chapter 1, verse 7, I think, that he again brought out this insight of that every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadow. And just previous to that, in verse 5, that it says that if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. And so Sam's insight from those passages was that as we move forward in making plans, that it's very important to be listening towards heaven, to have an ear towards heaven, but eyes focused on what we're doing. such that when the Father says, this is a course correction, here's new wisdom from me. I know you have plans, but I'm speaking into it and I'm changing them. But that if we have a mindset of, these are the plans that I've made, this is how I'm moving forward, that very often that when the Father of the heavenly lights has wisdom that he releases to us and he does not change, that when he speaks to us, it's requisite upon me to change my plans and to go with the good wisdom that my Father is releasing from heaven rather than my pre-established plans. Out of that then, Sam then applied that last verse. Therefore, the one who knows the good that he ought to do but doesn't do it sins. It was so beautiful. It was so wonderful to hear this encouraging word from God through my friend Sam in this time of life, that he wasn't aware of all the decisions that Charlotte and I are needing to make over the next year, and that we're going to do this and that. We're making our lists and our timelines and our tasks. But that it was this admonition to then always have an ear towards heaven, that we ought to say, if it's the Lord's will, we will do this or that. So my challenge for you out of this new lesson learned from my friend Sam is, out of the things that, yes, that the good that you know that you ought to do in regards to living a righteous life, not lying, not stealing, not committing adultery, not lusting, all of those elements, yes, the good that you know to do, if you don't do those things, it's sin. Absolutely true. But my challenge to you is that out of your life, with the plans that you've made, my encouragement to you would be to listen to heaven, that God is constantly speaking, that his Spirit always has things in the moment with a fresh rhema word that's calling you into doing things that are an interruption to what you may already have in place. That if you're not listening to the voice of God, and beyond that, if you are listening to his voice, but you're like, no, that doesn't fit into my plans, and so I'm just going to keep moving forward. So the one who knows the good that they are to do, that deviates from the plans that you've made, and you don't do it, that becomes sin. My challenge, my new challenge, is then moving forward in all the decisions that we're making to constantly be listening towards heaven and to not allow anxiety or fear or unbelief to draw me into sin in following my own plans rather than the plans of God. If you subscribe to what I am doing, hit the button, hit it, and then get it. Hit the bell as well so you get notified with the new content. And if you loved this video, you didn't just like it, hit the thumbs down button. I pray blessings on your day. I love you guys lots, and I'll see you in the next video.